Senator, hello. Welcome back.
Hello, Sandy. It's very good to be back.
What do you think of Broome this time around?
Oh, look, I've been talking to the people on the ground for the last couple of days. What I'm hearing is that there are less tourists this time around than last year, and also the tourists are less willing to spend money in the shops. So I think it is a concern, and it is probably a result of years of too much focus on mining rather than tourism, agriculture, and aquaculture. Now we're dealing with the years of lack of attention now.
Because you have been in town for a few days, so you really have kind of had the opportunity of getting the pulse.
Yes, I have, and it is always a concern that Broome was built on the pearl industry and also tourism industry. We've spent too much energy and focus on mining, and now we're dealing with the fact that we shouldn't spend too much time on mining, because if you look at agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, they are all sustainable industries, and they are the niche market that we should really tap into, because we are known as clean, green, and very nice environment. So that's the stuff we should be focusing on.
Yeah. Well, that's something you can really get a gauge on, because just going back a little bit, Senator, we know your history, but can we share that again for those that haven't had the privilege of getting a bit of your background?
Sure, Sandy. I was born and grew up in China. I moved to Melbourne at the age of 22, and I studied Master of Civil Engineering in Melbourne University. After I graduated, it was quite difficult to find an engineering job in Victoria, and WA was booming back then. So I found a job as an engineer in WA, so I moved to WA and have never left ever since.
And lucky to have you, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose I love WA, and it is where I call home.
Yeah, well, we've also asked you previously to what got you interested in politics.
Well, two reasons. One reason is that I worked in the company and later became CEO of the company. That is a mining company, and I was shocked by politicians saying one thing before election and do the opposite after. So I thought, hang on, we need to have really honest politicians. So that's one reason I came in. I want to show that politicians can be honest and they can be genuine about putting the people first. Another reason I went into politics is because I chose to migrate to Australia. I chose to become an Australian citizen. But my six-year-old daughter never had the chance to make the choice on her own. So I kind of made the choice for her. I made the decision for her. Now I'm responsible for the decision I made. So I want to make sure the country is going well and becoming greater and greater every day. So when she grows up, she wouldn't regret the decision that her father made. As a father, I can do my best, get a job, get a better pay to provide for her. But if the country is not in a good shape in the future, then even if she's okay financially, she's still even living a worse off country. So the best way to make sure she's all right in the future is to make sure I can be in politics and make some good decisions for the country.
Senator, some might say you're amongst the last man standing. Well, there's Mr. Palmer as well, still going as one of the original Palmer United senators. How do you feel about that?
Well, look, first of all, I was elected twice, in September 2013 and April 2014. I was elected twice under Palmer United Party. And Western Australians chose me as a member of Palmer United Party to represent them in the federal parliament. So I have to stay loyal to the decisions that Western Australians made back then. And of course, the parties had some ups and downs, but it's very normal in any political parties. And this is where I actually can show my loyalty and persistence in pursuing the interest of Western Australians rather than in pursuing the interest of my own.
You're also very strong on corruption, and of course, unfortunately, uh, Mr. Palmer's been labelled with all sorts of labels over the last couple of years. Just, what are your thoughts there?
Well, first of all, the media is very keen to label Clive Palmer anything. I mean, my interpretation of that is probably the major parties uh, think that Clive Palmer is a threat to them politically. But if Clive was corrupt, I'm sure there will be agencies who's going to investigate into him anyway, and no one yet find anything dodgy about Clive Palmer. And also, as you mentioned, Sandy, I am very big on fighting corruption myself. That's why I've set up the Senate committee dedicated to the establishment of a national corruption watchdog. Through the inquiry, we've heard 1/3 of Australians believe there is corruption in the federal parliament and federal government. Now, what that tells you is that the people don't have confidence in federal parliament. What that does to a normal people on the street is that if they believe the federal government or the federal parliament is corrupt, they will think twice before they go into any business, before they look for a job or anything. That is a huge impact on everyone in this country. That is huge impact on public's confidence. And also, the Vote Compass online has found that 80% of Australians want a national corruption watchdog. Every state in Australia has their own independent corruption watchdog. In Western Australia, we have Triple C. In New South Wales, we have ICAC, for example. So don't tell me that the state governments think that they need an independent corruption watchdog. Yet the federal government don't think we need one, because the federal government is the biggest government spender in this country. There's a lot of money changing hands in the federal sphere. And look, I'd like to think the federal parliament and federal government is squeaking clean, but it may not be the case. And, if it is very clean, we still need an independent agency, to confirm that is the case, so we can restore public confidence in federal parliament. That is very, very important.
You backing him in on the network with Senator Zhenya Wang and Sandy Dan from the studios of Goolarri Media. We're broadcasting as we also stream live on the net. Senator, obviously you felt very much abuse with the first time around with your representation and your style that you brought into the Senate. You're looking for a second run, hey?
Yes, I am. There are unfinished tasks like the National Corruption Agency. It was difficult to get Labor on board to support me to set up the committee in the first place. And yet, that's only the first step in setting up the National Corruption Watchdog. And also another task I want to finish is the GST. Western Australians know that we've been ripped off on the GST distribution for years. And there are 27 politicians representing Western Australia in the federal parliament. I'm the only one independent of the major parties. Now, the other politicians, the other 26 politicians, they all have to toe their party lines, whereas I don't have to. And that's why I have been able to put Western Australia first and foremost. That's why I introduced a law into the federal parliament to stop the GST ripoff. And by being able to introduce a law is already a significant step forward in solving the problem. But Western Australians need to make sure that they don't make the major parties feel they're going to be safe in WA. They're going to get their representation, the seats and the senators anyway. So we need to make sure, we need to get them worried, to be honest, so that they can think about what they can do for WA.
What about all of this talk about minor parties that have been going on, and just this election being a double disillusion election, hoping to weed out people like you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a false argument, Sandy. The minor parties and the independent senators, 8 of us, we all supported the government more than Labor and the Greens did. If you look at our Senate voting record, The Greens probably support the government 2 or 3% of the time. Labour is the second last. Even the left-leaning independents like Senator Lambie or Senator Lazarus, they both supported the government more than Labour and the Greens did. So the crossbench was never feral, and I think the crossbench is actually what the Senate's supposed to be like. We are supposed to be senators representing our own states rather than our party masters. And that's the difference between the small parties and the major parties. Major party senators will have to toe the party line. That's where the Western Australian voice is forgotten in the federal parliament because the major parties have more politicians representing eastern states than Western Australia.
Do you senators get on with just the other House states? It's been said in the past, even by Paul Keating, unrepresentative swill.
I actually get on with most of the politicians in federal parliament very well. It is my job, being an elected senator, to work with anyone in the federal parliament to achieve an outcome that is best for Western Australia. That's why I have to put my personal feelings away because, as long as I'm working with senators, politicians elected by people from other states, I'm doing my job. It is not my job to get my personal feeling in the way and stop working with others just because I don't like them as a person. And that is very wrong.
Do you feel like the underdog?
Yes, I'm the underdog, actually. I mean, I've won election twice to have a 6-year term, but now almost 2 years in the 6th year, I'm facing my third election already. So this will be my third election in less than 3 years. It is kind of underdog feeling, and look, it doesn't bother me either way. I just want to represent Western Australians.
And you just want to, well, like Lazarus, you're in another life, don't you?
Yes, look, I work with anyone, and as long as they're elected by their people, it's my job to work with them. And being an underdog or whatever doesn't really concern me. But I'm saying to Western Australians, I'm the only one independent of the major parties representing Western Australians in the federal parliament. So I'm hoping Western Australians will save their only independent voice in the federal parliament coming this election.
So you're visiting Broome at the moment. You're going to be heading down towards the Pilbara as well a little later.
Yes, it is my election time, and it is busy time. But also I appreciate the time being able to ground it in WA, because otherwise I might be flying to Canberra, going to Parliament House for the Parliament meeting. It is very good to be able to ground it in WA to talk to the communities. I've been traveling around quite a bit in the last month or so. I visited York, Northern, etc. All those places that you can say near Perth, but actually very different from Perth. The regional communities there are really having a tough time too. And now I'm in Broome and going to Port Hedland and Karratha later this week to talk to the local communities as well. It is a difficult job being the only senator representing Western Australia because I have to talk to everyone. It is a large state to cover. If unlike the major party senators, they can rely on their MPs, or the senators can share the job of traveling, but I have to do it. I have to do it all by myself. But I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to the people who are working on the ground. They know better than the politicians in Canberra.
So is Clive going to join you at any point?
Well, Clive is planning to come to WA next week, so we'll be doing some media events. But mostly, I'm just keep doing what I've been doing the last 2 years, talking to the real people, make sure I know the real issues, and also make sure I know the local people's knowledge of solving the local problems. One thing I really don't like about is the politicians in Canberra pretend they know everything, pretend they know the solutions to every problem, and then they just keep telling people what to do. It's normally very, very wrong.
Oh, Senator, it's been a pleasure once again to share space with you. And keep up the good work at getting out there, talking to the real people, as you said, because you certainly have done a fantastic job over the years doing just that.
Thank you, Sandy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Senator Wang.
Thank you.
Parma United Party, Senator Zhenya Wang. Your privilege.